presented by Edge Radio.
And we are live with Media Shower on Edge Radio, 99 point... Oh, what are we again?
99.3 FM.
Yeah.
It's on the board.
Yet I'm too blind to see the board.
That's all right. We'll have to blow it up and stick it on the screen or something. How are you, Lochie? What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
Well, I've been doing all right. Relatively same. What local folks would say, same stuff, different day, really.
It's a bit like that, going into hibernation for the winter.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that hibernation feel, particularly with the weather.
Starting to get cold. I'd just like to start by telling I'm Qom. Everyone go watch Furiosa, the new Mad Max movie. Drop whatever you're doing, run out, go do it right now. You will not be... This movie needs... I want a sequel. I want 10 sequels. These are the best movies of the decade. Quick. Just, if you're at work, quit your job. Go watch this movie. Everyone needs to.
So I haven't obviously seen the film, so you believe it was... excuse me. You believe it was that worthy and exciting. Like, I've not seen you being this excited for a movie in quite a long time, surprisingly. So it's like to see you act all giddy and almost like child nostalgic, if you will, but not related to it in any way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Almost like the ideal attitude, if you will, for it.
Absolutely. I've not been so excited for a movie coming out. I really haven't cared for... We've been to cinemas a couple times the last year. And I think every movie I went, we'll just go see it. This one I was like, I have to go see it. I must get there. And I finally did this week. And it was well worth it. It was Fury Road that came out like 2015. 9 years ago. It's probably one of my favourite movies. And I've just been anticipating. Every night for the last 9 years, I've gone to bed thinking, and what happens now? What do I do? Yeah, I think Fury Road's probably like my favourite movie ever. And the sequel is not as perfect, but it's still great. It's probably like... I think it's one of the best movies I've seen in the last decade. Apart from the Fury Road. It's like, George Miller's a genius. Everyone get out there. It's perfect world building. It's so much action and ultra violence. The story is good. There are a few critiques, but it's okay. It's essentially a cartoon movie in live action. It's kind of almost like a Looney Tunes. People just doing wild stuff the entire time. It's perfect. Go watch it.
So no doubt the question obviously isn't... it's something clever there, but I, of course, lost it. But anyway...
The question is it the greatest movie and should everyone go watch it? And the answer is yes.
Well, I think I'm already getting the feeling that you're about to subjugate me into a chair with chains and one of those eye extenders on...
Yeah, Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange, thank you. And like, you're going to watch this movie and you're going to like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm essentially kidnapping you for the rest of the day and we're going to go watch it.
Go to the toilet, you want to eat, too bad, you're watching the movie.
That's right. Priorities, man. Absolutely. I will get you to watch both these movies, Lochie. We will review them at some point. It is needed. You need to watch the best movies ever. Everyone does.
This is coming from a guy who never has even watched the Mad Max movies. So this is a bit conflicting, but yet exciting a little, because it's like, it's a new franchise, but I don't know.
You don't need to watch the old ones. Watching them will be good, but you don't need to. You just need to watch the two new ones. They've rebooted the entire thing, essentially.
I just feel like I'm not sure how I'd be able to wrap my head around it as of right now. But I reckon I could come to the conclusion of it.
Like I said, the last two are
sometime.
almost a reboot, so you only have to see them, and it all makes sense. A bunch of crazy people. The story isn't. It's more character driven. The overall story is, or whatever. I mean that's brilliant as well, but it's more the interestingness of all the characters and the sets and like I said, the action in it. That's what is heightening this thing. And really, I guess they connect, but compared to the old ones, it was just we'll do whatever, and the new ones are a bit more tied together. All right, we will come back and we will be reviewing this in the next couple of weeks, I think. But we have both watched The Festival. Would you like to jump into that review, Lochie?
Yeah, I was going to suggest before we jumped into that, I was going to suggest that you continuously, the movie Clockwork Orange or whatever it's called, and you torture me up into a chair and you just make me watch all the Mad Max movies, even the old ones.
I want to do that to the entire world. It needs to be done. So I'm going super villain just to get people to watch this movie.
Well, get ready, everybody, for the next dominated supervillain.
That's right.
But anyway, let's jump on with today's subject, The Festival. Now, it was a movie that came out back in 2018. It's got the actors of Joe Thomas from The Inbetweeners, and you've got, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Hamid Animishon?
So he plays Shane, his friend.
Yeah, his friend.
Okay.
And you've got other actors like Hannah Toyerton, also another star from The Inbetweeners, Theo Barklam Biggs, which was, funnily enough, a background character from the Inbetweeners movie.
Yeah. Jay Thomas is probably the most known one from The Inbetweeners, and it's directed and written and really created the whole thing from the Inbetweeners crew.
Yeah, so if you really enjoyed The Inbetweeners, there is a good chance that you might like this movie. To give it a long story short. And there was something that you mentioned earlier today that in regards of when it came to celebrity cameos, because they had quite the big names, like Nick Frost even.
Yeah, Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead. They had Noel Fielding from The Mighty Boosh.
That's right.
And I think it's pronounced Jermaine Clement from The Flight of the Conchords. And so they kind of, I don't know how big they are as stars, but they're very iconic stars for each of their own shows and movies.
Yeah, even
very recognizable.
without even me knowing any of the actors' works, besides, let's say, Joe Thomas or Nick Frost, I can't help but feel like the other characters feel, I guess, sort of...
It's almost a cameo, that's what you're trying to say.
Well, some of it, well, particularly with Nick Frost, because that was the biggest. But I think it was more like they star in their own programs, respectively.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of... a good example is Noel Fielding probably hasn't done much since The Mighty Boosh, but The Mighty Boosh was so big that he's a very recognizable character.
Yeah, and if
a
you're...
very recognizable actor.
Yeah, again, like, very recognizable comedian.
Yeah, there are only 3 seasons, but it's very unique, that show. It's kind of like a cult classic.
Just, my first watch, I was honestly surprised that they didn't get the likes of... They didn't go full on in and just get Simon Pegg come in.
Yeah.
With a combination of Nick Frost and then... But then you mentioned something that I never would have considered. Now that you've helped me look at this movie in a different light or sense. Like, it was something to do with either the jokes not landing or they could have, well, been better.
I didn't mind like a lot of the jokes in here. I thought it was I think I said to you it was a good movie, but not a great movie. To me, it was an in-betweeners episode stretched out really to an hour and a half, and I almost felt that maybe it was an old in-betweeners script that they never got to film. Essentially, maybe we'll summarize the plot a little bit. Do you want to do that, alright?
So we've got the main character, Nick, who's played by Joe Thomas, who pretty much goes for a quote-unquote rough trot when his girlfriend breaks up with him during university graduation. To get his mind off things, his friend Shane basically suggests that we should go to a music festival. Sounds simple enough, right? But hijinks ensue alert.
Yeah, when he gets there, his ex-girlfriend and her friends are all there, and he kind of goes into another depressive fit. He becomes very obsessed with her, trying to win her back the entire time.
Not realizing more or less his traits reflect on his personality, if you will.
Yeah, I think, well, that all ends badly. That's probably the first half of the movie. Then he meets a second girl.
Who is nothing more but a Smurf, and I am not kidding.
Yeah, she's literally a Smurf. But he meets this second girl. They have a great night, and then he's kind of trying to stalk her, I guess, or find... She leaves in the morning, and he's trying to find where she is in this huge festival for the rest of the movie.
After recovering from a drunken and drugged up stupor.
Yeah. And it kind of concludes with his friends essentially saying, listen, bro, this whole festival, you've been so selfish. Just kind of...
You've been so self-entitled and self-focused for yourself, whereas you can't see the positives in anything, I guess.
Yeah. He's almost in this depressive stupor, I think is the word, that he's...
And therefore...
He's not helping his friends or anything, or he's not chasing his friends' goals, he's not assisting them in any way.
And he's not and by saying that, he's really not helping himself by, I guess, in a way, going into more or less rants that what he believes would think, oh yeah, that's bad, but like to any other human, we would think, oh, of course that's bad, but we don't need to talk about that type of topics, you know?
Yeah, to an extent, or just reliving those moments over and over.
Yeah.
Rather than pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. And it's interesting, I thought, at this point where he's essentially realized he's been selfish and he screws over his friends and they say, listen, bro, it's not just about you, you know.
It's not all about you, Nick.
And they almost kind of tell him, you're not the main protagonist of this story. There's other people here. And then the story literally swaps over to Shane. And he becomes the main character or the main protagonist just at the end. But I thought it was kind of an interesting idea that we're literally going to swap stories to, you know, the side character is essentially now the main character in this plot.
Who in story-wise is a fan of a music DJ artist. And the sole reason why Shane went to the festival in the first place. And he finally gets the opportunity to meet him, only for it all to go badly. And, spoiler alert, Shane has to dress up as the artist to perform his show. And it all goes well for a while, being the fact that he's in a very detailed latex shark mask that is, well, a hammerhead, really.
Yeah. So Shane essentially, by his friend, by Nick saying, you know, I'm going to help you with your goal, Shane is able to fulfill his. And I kind of thought,
I've now realised what a bad person I've been this whole film. I'm now going to try and make it up for it because, quote, the plot demands it.
Yeah, essentially. I thought the story was very... it it was almost just a vehicle to have these funny jokes throughout.
Yeah, it did
Does
feel
that
like
make sense?
it really did overall feel like a vehicle to move its jokes in that way. I don't know how actually to describe it, but how you said that is actually, well, pretty spot on, actually.
Yeah, I just thought, it's very basic, the story, and it's really so we can see Nick kind of, all these characters in general. Oh, let's have a joke about a lot of jokes about drug use or crass humor, all these kind of things throughout. And I thought, the story almost felt secondary to just having these funny moments throughout, which is kind of okay.
Which can be executed sometimes pretty darn good, but in most cases, it hasn't all been to the greatest. But what do I know, right?
Like I said, I thought it was a good movie. It's not
Yeah.
great or excellent.
Yeah, it's more
I
or less just
enjoyed it.
something to,
It's a good background movie, I thought.
yeah, just a good background movie to shut your brain off.
It's almost like an episode of old Simpsons or Family Guy where you're doing your ironing or washing some dishes and you can catch like 30 seconds of a joke, have a laugh, but you don't have to pay attention to the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it felt very much like those movies. You can be invested, but you're not gonna get anything big out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah. The other one I thought was, I kind of wish they did more of, is I thought, man, the filming and in particular the audio was just very bare. It felt like a straight to TV, episode of Inbetweeners where there's nothing amazing or unique going on with the filming whatsoever. And same with the audio. I thought, maybe you could have done like almost a Baby Driver type thing where, he's listening to one song, or is it a concert the entire movie essentially? So, let's have some rock music playing in like an action scene, and let's cut from the band playing on stage to him doing something crazy, or some electronic music on stage and he's doing something different. Or let's have like a romantic or slow song playing as he's doing something, romantic. Instead, it was very much like, it was just whatever. It was any stock music, I guess. And
the soundtrack, admittedly, has got some good songs. It did feel very, well, how do I say it? Every person's playlist which you go to a party at. Like, you hear the same, you hear the same popular songs over and over again, no matter who you're with or where you are. You're gonna hear those same popular songs over and over again.
Yeah, I just thought they could have tied it in a little better. If there's ever a movie you're going to highlight the audio in, it's a movie at a concert. And same with almost the filming. It was professional. It looked good, but there was nothing unique about it. And I almost thought, especially the scenes where there's a little bit of drug use or something, amp those colors up. You know what I mean? Make something crazy out of it.
That's interesting. Suggestive of
Use
the
a
colors.
fisheye lens or something. Just make it insane. I don't know. It just seemed like, whatever. It's like I said, it looked good, it looked professional, but there was nothing that there's nothing memorable about the filming or the audio really in general.
No, not really. If anything,
Yeah. I'm probably being maybe a little picky.
maybe we are, but hey,
I expect good quality after watching Mad Max Furiosa.
But I mentioned to you earlier about the whole IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes score, and I was surprised to find that on Rotten Tomatoes the audience score was way lower than the critics score.
Yeah. I think it was, 44% for audience.
Yeah, and you got 84 for like the critics score.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's not unusual now, though. I often, when I look up movies, I have to compare both. And I don't know if there's something weird going on. There's a greater divide now. It seems that movies don't have this. Often they are completely different, one way or another. The critics might give it a really low score, audience gives it a higher one, or critics give it a really high one and audience give it a low one. I guess the critics just aren't in line with the people like we are. We are
Nah.
men of the people.
Yeah. Like, if you want the truest of criticisms, you're gonna want Media Shower, baby.
That's exactly right. Well, yeah. So would you recommend this movie, Lochie?
I would only suggest watching it if you are into Inbetween's style of humor, but yet not something you wanna put all of your attention into, let's say. Like, you may look at some things or some actors and be like, oh yeah, I remember that from the Inbetweeners, like previous actors or actresses, for example.